I used to think my life was simple and good, the kind of life people wanted without saying it out loud. Every morning, I woke up before my alarm, rolled toward Emily and whispered, "You still asleep?" 5 more minutes, she always said, her voice soft, calm, safe. I would smile and say, "I'll make coffee." "Don't forget sugar," she replied, already turning away. At breakfast I asked, "Big day today?" She nodded. "Same as always." "You work then home?" I said. "Like always." She smiled, but her eyes stayed somewhere else. I noticed it, but I told myself I was imagining things. I always did that. At work, Mark leaned over my desk and said, "Man, you're lucky." "Why?" I asked. "Good job, pretty wife, quiet life," he said. "You won." I laughed. "Yeah, I guess I did." "You don't sound convinced," he said. "I don't need excitement," I replied. "Peace is enough." Mark shook his head. "Peace can hide things." When I got home that night, Uncle Robert's car was already in the driveway. I felt comfort, not concern. I walked in and called out, "Hey, Uncle Rob." "In the kitchen," he said, cheerful as ever. Emily stood by the stove. Robert was chopping vegetables like he belonged there. "You didn't tell me we had company," I said. Emily shrugged. "He stopped by. Thought we'd eat together." Robert laughed. "What, I need permission now?" I raised my hands. "Never. Your family." "That's what I like about you," he said, clapping my shoulder. "You understand loyalty." At dinner, Robert asked, "How's work treating you?" "Same old," I said. "Can't complain." "You never do," Emily said, smiling thinly. I laughed. "Someone has to keep the peace." Robert nodded. "A man who avoids conflict lives longer." "I believe that," I said. "Family matters more than ego." Emily looked at me, then really looked like she wanted to say something. I asked, "What?" "Nothing," she said quickly. "Just tired." Robert changed the subject. "Remember when you were a kid and followed me everywhere?" I smiled. "You were my hero." He laughed. "Still am?" "Of course," I said. "You always had my back." He paused for a second, then raised his glass. "To family." "To family," Emily echoed. I felt warm, safe, blind. After dinner, Robert said, "I'll come by tomorrow too." "Anytime," I replied. "This is your home." Emily stiffened. I didn't notice. Later, while washing dishes, Emily said, "You trust people too much." I frowned. "Is that bad?" She hesitated. "Sometimes it gets you hurt." I laughed. "If I can't trust my own family, who can I trust?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. "Forget it." I reached for her hand. "Hey, talk to me." She pulled away. "I'm just tired." That night in bed I said, "You've been quiet lately." She turned her back. "Work stress." "I can help," I said. "We're a team." She sighed. "You're always so sure." "Sure about what?" "About us," she said. I smiled in the dark. "I am." Silence stretched between us. I added, "I don't need much. Just you." She whispered, "I know." I stared at the ceiling, feeling something small twist in my chest. I told myself, "Don't overthink." I always did. The next morning, Robert was already there when I woke up. "Early start," I said. He smiled. "Couldn't sleep." Emily poured him coffee. "You take it black." "You remember?" he said warmly. I joked, "She remembers everything." Emily's hand shook. "I didn't see it." Robert said, "You're a good husband." I shrugged. "I just do my best." "That's why people respect you," he replied. Emily said quietly, "Some people don't deserve that kind of trust." I laughed. "Trust is what holds things together." Robert nodded. "Without it, everything falls apart." Emily looked away. As I grabbed my keys, I said, "Dinner tonight?" She answered too fast. "Sure." I smiled, feeling proud, feeling safe. I had no idea that this life was already slipping away from me. On the drive to work, I called Emily. "Just checking in," I said. "You already left," she replied. "I like hearing your voice." There was a pause. "Drive safe." At a red light, I whispered, "I love you." "I know," she said, and the call ended. I stared at my phone, confused. Mark later asked, "Everything good at home?" "Yeah," I said quickly. "Why?" "You look nervous," he replied. "I'm just tired," I said. That was my answer to everything back then. Tired of questions. Tired of thinking. I chose comfort over truth, and I didn't know the cost yet. If someone had warned me that love could lie so quietly, I would not have listened. I believed silence meant peace, not secrets waiting patiently to destroy everything I trusted inside my life. I started noticing things I couldn't explain, small moments that felt wrong but harmless enough to ignore. One morning I asked, "Who keeps texting you so early?" Emily turned her phone face down. "Work." "That serious?" I asked. She shrugged. "Deadlines." I nodded even though my stomach tightened. I told myself, don't be that guy. At lunch, Mark said, "You look distracted." "I'm fine," I said. "You sure?" he asked. "You keep checking your phone." "I'm waiting on my wife," I replied. Mark leaned back. "Man, you ever feel like you trust too easily?" I laughed. "That's not a flaw." "Sometimes it is," he said. "People don't always deserve it." I changed the subject. That night when I got home, Uncle Robert was there again. "Surprise," he said. "Hope you don't mind." "Of course not," I replied. "You know you're always welcome." Emily didn't look up from her phone. I asked, "Everything okay?" She answered, "Just tired." During dinner I said, "You've been busy lately." She said, "So have you." Robert jumped in. "Life gets hectic." I smiled. "At least we have family." Emily's fork paused. "Yeah, family." Later I heard her voice from the bedroom. "I told you not now." I froze in the hallway. She continued quieter, "He's right here." I stepped closer, my heart pounding. She said, "I'll call you later." When she came out, I asked, "Who were you talking to?" She said, "My sister." "That didn't sound like her," I replied. Emily's eyes hardened. "Why are you interrogating me?" "I'm not," I said quickly. "I was just asking." She crossed her arms. "You're imagining things." I believed her because believing her hurt less. The next day Robert called me. "Mind if I stop by again?" "Sure," I said. "Everything okay?" "Just checking on you," he replied. "You've been quiet." "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." That night, Emily barely spoke to me. I asked, "Did I do something wrong?" She sighed. "Why do you always think it's about you?" "I don't," I said. "I just feel distant from you." She laughed softly. "You're overthinking." In bed I reached for her. She pulled away. "Not tonight," she said. "Did I upset you?" I asked. "No," she replied. "I'm exhausted." I stared at the ceiling, telling myself to trust her. A week later, Mark said, "You ever notice when people stop looking at you?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "They talk through you," he said. "Like you're not really there." I felt cold. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you look invisible lately," he replied. That evening I found Emily's phone buzzing on the counter. The name on the screen wasn't saved. I called out, "Your phone's ringing." She rushed in and grabbed it. "Don't touch my stuff." I stepped back. "Since when?" She looked away. "I need privacy." "From me?" I asked. She didn't answer. Later Robert said, "Marriage needs space." I frowned. "Since when do you give advice?" He smiled. "Since I care." I wanted to argue but I didn't. That night I whispered, "Are you still happy?" Emily said, "Why are you asking this now?" "Because I feel like I'm losing you," I admitted. She turned away. "You're not." Her voice sounded certain. Mine didn't. I lay awake, listening to her breathe, wondering when I stopped being part of her thoughts. Every instinct told me something was wrong. I ignored it. Trust was easier than truth, and I wasn't ready to see my reflection crack. The next morning I said, "You're leaving early." Emily said, "Meeting?" "With who?" I asked. She grabbed her bag. "Why does it matter?" "It didn't before," I said quietly. She paused. "I can't do this right now." After she left, I sat alone and said out loud, "I'm not crazy." At work, Mark asked, "You okay?" "I think so," I replied. He said, "Thinking so usually means no." "I trust my wife," I said. Mark nodded slowly. "I hope that trust is earned." That night, Robert showed up without calling. "Bad timing?" he asked. "No," I said. "Just unexpected." Emily avoided my eyes the entire evening. I asked, "Can we talk?" She said, "About what?" "About us," I said. She laughed sharp. "You're being dramatic." Robert stood up. "I'll give you space." After he left, I said, "Why does he know when to leave?" Emily snapped, "Stop twisting things." "I'm trying to understand," I said. "There's nothing to understand," she replied. Silence filled the room. I finally said, "I feel like I don't belong here anymore." She whispered, You're imagining it. I nodded even as something inside me disappeared. I told myself love meant patience, not questions, and I chose to wait, even as my own voice faded from the room completely. I stayed silent and afraid. I started noticing things I couldn't explain, small moments that felt wrong but harmless enough to ignore. One morning I asked, "Who keeps texting you so early?" Emily turned her phone face down. "Work." "That serious?" I asked. She shrugged. "Deadlines." I nodded even though my stomach tightened. I told myself don't be that guy. At lunch Mark said, "You look distracted." "I'm fine," I said. "You sure?" he asked. "You keep checking your phone." "I'm waiting on my wife," I replied. Mark leaned back. "Man, you ever feel like you trust too easily?" I laughed. "That's not a flaw." "Sometimes it is," he said. "People don't always deserve it." I changed the subject. That night when I got home, Uncle Robert was there again. "Surprise," he said. "Hope you don't mind." "Of course not," I replied. "You know you're always welcome." Emily didn't look up from her phone. I asked, "Everything okay?" She answered, "Just tired." During dinner I said, "You've been busy lately." She said, "So have you." Robert jumped in. "Life gets hectic." I smiled. "At least we have family." Emily's fork paused. "Yeah, family." Later I heard her voice from the bedroom. "I told you not now." I froze in the hallway. She continued quieter, "He's right here." I stepped closer, my heart pounding. She said, "I'll call you later." When she came out I asked, "Who were you talking to?" She said, "My sister." "That didn't sound like her," I replied. Emily's eyes hardened. "Why are you interrogating me?" "I'm not," I said quickly. "I was just asking." She crossed her arms. "You're imagining things." I believed her because believing her hurt less. The next day Robert called me. "Mind if I stop by again?" "Sure," I said. "Everything okay?" "Just checking on you," he replied. "You've been quiet." "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." That night, Emily barely spoke to me. I asked, "Did I do something wrong?" She sighed. "Why do you always think it's about you?" "I don't," I said. "I just feel distant from you." She laughed softly. "You're overthinking." In bed I reached for her. She pulled away. "Not tonight," she said. "Did I upset you?" I asked. "No," she replied. "I'm exhausted." I stared at the ceiling, telling myself to trust her. A week later Mark said, "You ever notice when people stop looking at you?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "They talk through you," he said. "Like you're not really there." I felt cold. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you look invisible lately," he replied. That evening I found Emily's phone buzzing on the counter. The name on the screen wasn't saved. I called out, "Your phone's ringing." She rushed in and grabbed it. "Don't touch my stuff." I stepped back. "Since when?" She looked away. "I need privacy." "From me?" I asked. She didn't answer. Later Robert said, "Marriage needs space." I frowned. "Since when do you give advice?" He smiled. "Since I care." I wanted to argue but I didn't. That night I whispered, "Are you still happy?" Emily said, "Why are you asking this now?" "Because I feel like I'm losing you," I admitted. She turned away. "You're not." Her voice sounded certain. Mine didn't. I lay awake, listening to her breathe, wondering when I stopped being part of her thoughts. Every instinct told me something was wrong. I ignored it. Trust was easier than truth, and I wasn't ready to see my reflection crack. The next morning I said, "You're leaving early." Emily said, "Meeting?" "With who?" I asked. She grabbed her bag. "Why does it matter?" "It didn't before," I said quietly. She paused. "I can't do this right now." After she left, I sat alone and said out loud, "I'm not crazy." At work Mark asked, "You okay?" "I think so," I replied. He said, "Thinking so usually means no." "I trust my wife," I said. Mark nodded slowly. "I hope that trust is earned." That night Robert showed up without calling. "Bad timing?" he asked. "No," I said. "Just unexpected." Emily avoided my eyes the entire evening. I asked, "Can we talk?" She said, "About what?" "About us," I said. She laughed sharp. "You're being dramatic." Robert stood up. "I'll give you space." After he left I said, "Why does he know when to leave?" Emily snapped, "Stop twisting things." "I'm trying to understand," I said. There's nothing to understand, she replied. Silence filled the room. I finally said, I feel like I don't belong here anymore. She whispered, You're imagining it. I nodded even as something inside me disappeared. I told myself love meant patience, not questions, and I chose to wait, even as my own voice faded from the room completely. I stayed silent and afraid. I slept in my car the first night and told myself it was temporary. I said out loud, just one night. The silence answered me. The second night I said, I'll figure it out tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. I sat in the driver's seat and whispered, How did I let this happen? No one replied. My phone buzzed. Mark's name lit up the screen. Where are you? He asked. I'm fine, I said. You don't sound fine, he replied. You want to crash at my place? I don't need charity, I snapped. Man, I'm worried about you. I said I'm fine, I repeated, then hung up. I leaned my head against the steering wheel and laughed. Liar. My chest tightened. My hands shook. I couldn't breathe. I gasped, Stop. Just stop. The panic didn't listen. I replayed Emily's voice in my head. I'm not yours anymore. I punched the seat. Why wasn't I enough? I saw her smiling with him. I imagined them in my house. My house. I whispered, You deserve this. The voice in my head agreed. The next morning I went to work smelling like regret. Mark cornered me by the break room. You look like hell, he said. Thanks, I replied. Don't do this alone, he said. I don't deserve help, I said. That's bullshit, he snapped. I shrugged. Feels true. He sighed. Come with me after work. To where? Therapy, he said. I laughed. I'm not crazy. No, he said softly. You're broken. I almost hit him. Instead, I nodded. Dr. Helen Moore had kind eyes and a calm voice. Sit, she said. I sat. She asked, Why are you here? I said, Because my life ended. She nodded. Tell me what that feels like. Empty, I replied. Loud. Quiet. All at once. Do you blame anyone? She asked. Yes, I said. Me. She leaned forward. Why? Because I trusted, I said. Because I didn't see it. Because I was weak. Trust isn't weakness, she said. It is when it destroys you, I replied. She said, You didn't cause their choices. I caused my pain, I argued. She let the silence sit. I finally said, She moved on already. How do you know? I saw her, I said. Laughing. Like I never mattered. Dr. Moore asked, And you? I laughed bitterly. I sleep in my car. She nodded. That sounds painful. No, I said. It sounds deserved. That night Mark called again. Did you go? He asked. Yes, I admitted. And? She didn't fix me, I said. That's not her job, he replied. Living is. I don't remember how, I said. He paused. You don't have to remember tonight. I hung up and stared at the ceiling of my car. I whispered, I hate myself. The words felt natural, comfortable. Days blurred together. I avoided mirrors. I avoided people. When I passed my old house, I muttered, You don't belong there. I saw Emily once at a store. She didn't see me. She was smiling. I said under my breath, Of course you are. My chest tightened again. I dropped my basket and ran outside. I gasped, Breathe, breathe. A stranger asked, You okay? I shook my head. No. He walked away. That night, Dr. Moore's voice echoed in my head. Pain isn't punishment. I answered aloud, It feels like it. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My eyes looked hollow. I said, You ruined everything. The reflection didn't argue. I lay back and whispered, I'm still here. It didn't feel like survival. It felt like waiting. Waiting for sleep. Waiting for silence. Waiting for the version of me who didn't trust so deeply. I closed my eyes and said one last thing to the darkness. I don't know how to live anymore. The car stayed quiet. Rock bottom didn't shout. It listened. I sat in Dr. Moore's office, hands clenched in my lap. She looked at me calm as ever and said, Do you want revenge or do you want your life back? I swallowed. I don't know. She nodded. You don't have to answer right away. Just think about it. I want them to hurt, I admitted. I want them to feel what I felt. And then? She asked softly. I don't know, I said, shaking my head. I feel like I'd lose myself too. She leaned forward. Exactly. That's the question you need to answer honestly. I stayed silent, staring at the floor. You're tired, she said. Exhausted. That anger is heavy. What else can it do for you? Make me feel alive, I said. Even if it kills me. You don't have to kill yourself to survive, she replied. I laughed bitterly. I've already died inside. No, she said firmly. You're still here. That matters. I pressed my hands to my face. I can't stop thinking about her. About Robert. About everything. You can't control their choices, she said. Only your own. I nodded slowly. Then what do I do? Start small, she said. Start with yourself. What does that even mean? I asked. Write it down, she said. Journal. Write every thought, every anger, every memory. Face it instead of running. I hesitated, then nodded. Okay. When I got home, I grabbed a notebook. I wrote my rage, my despair, my shame. I wrote the things I never said out loud. I can't believe she lied to me for 7 years, I whispered to the empty room. And Robert, he smiled while I died inside. I said, pen scratching paper. I hated myself for trusting, I wrote. I hated myself for loving. Each word burned, but I kept writing. I didn't stop. After a few nights, the notebook filled with trembling letters and half-finished sentences. I looked at it and whispered, I can face it. Dr. Moore's words echoed. You don't have to destroy yourself for people who never loved you. I closed the notebook and looked at the ceiling. Maybe I don't. I poured out the alcohol I'd been clinging to. You're not helping me, I said to the bottle. I smashed it against the sink. I don't need this. I felt the shards in my hands, but I didn't care. Pain in my body felt different from pain in my heart. One could heal, the other I had to face. The next day Mark called. You doing better? I'm surviving, I said. That's progress, he said. I guess, I muttered. He asked, still thinking about them? Every second, I admitted. Then write, he said. Or run. Your choice. I hung up and grabbed the notebook. I wrote down the moments I felt weak. I wrote the truth I refused to speak. I'm tired of letting them control me, I whispered. I'm tired of pain deciding everything. I started small. I cleaned my apartment. I washed dishes. I cooked. I forced myself to stand outside, to breathe air that wasn't heavy with rage. I called Dr. Moore. I think I'm ready to try. Try what? She asked. Living, I said. Good, she said. Step by step. I began setting tiny goals. I walked to work instead of driving. I went out for coffee instead of hiding. I even laughed a little when Mark told a dumb joke. I forgot people could be funny, I said to him. You needed that laugh, he said. You're coming back. Maybe, I said. I don't want revenge. Not really. That's a good sign, he said. That night, I wrote in the notebook again. I won't destroy myself for people who never loved me. I choose survival. I will not be small anymore. I closed the notebook, chest tight but steady. For the first time in months, I didn't feel dead. Just cautious, just tired, just alive. I whispered, I'll rebuild. Slowly. The silence in the apartment wasn't empty anymore. It was mine. I was still broken, but the choice was mine. And for the first time, I felt like that mattered. I whispered again, I will not be weak. The darkness stayed, but it didn't swallow me. Not tonight. I was alive. Not just existing. I was starting to live. I didn't check Emily's social media anymore. I didn't want to see her smiling, laughing, living a life that wasn't mine. At work, Lena approached me one morning. You look different, she said, calm as always. I feel different, I admitted. She smiled slightly. Good different or bad different? Good, I think, I said. You're not as quiet as before, she said. I'm learning to breathe, I replied. She raised an eyebrow. Breathe how? That sounds like a plan. I'm trying, I said. Keep it up, she said. People notice change. I nodded, appreciating her words more than I expected. A few weeks later, my boss asked me to lead a project. Are you sure you want this? He asked. Yes, I said. I can handle it. You sound confident, he said. I am, I replied. At the office, Lena leaned over. I heard about the promotion. Congrats. Thanks, I said. Feels like a step forward. You deserve it, she said simply. I smiled, feeling the warmth of respect for the first time in months. I started waking up earlier. I ran before work. I cooked breakfast. I even cleaned the apartment properly. One morning, Lena said, You seem disciplined. I need structure, I said. Otherwise, I fall back into the dark. You've come a long way, she said. I laughed softly. Not far enough yet. Later during lunch Mark called. How's it going? I'm managing, I said. Managing isn't enough, he said. You're thriving, I can tell. I don't feel like thriving, I admitted. You will, he said. Step by step. I hung up and smiled faintly. He always knew what to say. At home I journaled again. I don't check her life. I don't wait for signs. I focus on myself. I choose growth. I paused, pen hovering. I don't forgive. I don't forget. But I no longer bleed every day. It felt good to write the truth. That night I called Lena. Want to grab coffee after work? Sure, she said. You seem more present lately. I am, I said. Trying to stay that way. At the cafe we talked about work, not feelings. That was fine. I didn't want to drag my pain onto anyone else. You're different than before, she said. I'm quieter but more awake, I replied. Good awake or bad awake? Good, I said. Focused. Not wasted on things I can't control. Lena smiled and changed the subject to a project at work. I listened, participated, laughed a little. Walking home, I whispered to myself, this is progress. At work, people started noticing. You handle stress well, my manager said. I've learned to control what I can, I replied. You inspire confidence, he said. I nodded, feeling a subtle strength return. At lunch, Lena said, you're not hiding anymore. I stopped hiding, I said. I don't want to disappear again. Good, she said. You're worth showing. I smiled. Thanks. Some nights the pain came back. I woke up in a cold sweat, heart racing. I whispered, it's still there but I won't let it win. I'd sit on the balcony, breathing deeply and remind myself I survived. I survived, I said aloud, and I will keep surviving. I stopped drinking entirely. I poured the last bottle down the sink. I don't need crutches, I whispered. I need myself. At work, Mark noticed. You're different, he said. I'm rebuilding, I replied. That's not easy, he said. I don't want easy, I said. I want real. Lena smiled. Real suits you. I forgot who I was, I said. I'm remembering now. She nodded. Step by step. I know, I said. But it feels good to try again. I started small things at home. Cooking, cleaning, organizing. I started small things at work. Meetings, projects, deadlines. I focused on what I could control. One evening, I whispered to myself, I'm stronger than I thought. I didn't feel invincible. I didn't feel complete. But I felt alive. And for the first time in months, that was enough. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. You're still broken, I said. But you're moving forward. The pain didn't vanish. The memories didn't disappear. I didn't forgive, I didn't forget, but I no longer let them define me. I smiled faintly. This is mine now. Slowly but mine. I breathed deeply. I'm not chasing justice. I'm chasing life. And in that silence, rebuilding felt like victory. I was grabbing lunch at the corner cafe when Mark called. Hey man, he said, voice low. You need to sit down for this. What is it? I asked, wary. Robert, he's being investigated. Financial stuff. Fraud. I froze. What? Robert? My uncle? Yeah. Big mess, Mark said. The news broke this morning. He might be in trouble. I leaned back, trying to breathe. I don't know what to feel. You don't have to feel anything, he said. Just notice it. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Notice it. Right. Exactly, he said. You're detached enough now to see this for what it is. I hung up, staring at my coffee. Detached, peaceful, almost, I whispered. At home I flipped through the news app. There was Robert's name, scandal, accusations. I scrolled without really absorbing the words. I muttered, I'm not smiling. I'm observing. Emily called while I was reading. Hey, she said, voice strained. Hey, I said cautiously. How's everything? She asked. I could hear her hesitation. Everything is fine, I said. You? Not great, she admitted. Bills, moving, rent, it's a mess. I stayed silent. I wanted to ask more, but the words didn't come. I'm sorry, she said. For what? I asked. For, she said. I exhaled slowly. I know. She didn't say more. I didn't push. After the call, I sat on the balcony listening to the city. The wind whispered past me and I realized I wasn't anxious. I wasn't burning with anger. I whispered, karma doesn't shout. It whispers. The next day at work, Lena noticed my calm. You look different, she said. I feel different, I admitted. Peaceful, she asked. Detached almost, I said. Not empty, just not beneath them anymore. She nodded. That's good. Later, Mark cornered me in the office. You heard about Robert? I did, I said. Big trouble. Crazy, right? He said. Not for me, I said. I don't feel joyous or vengeful. Really? He asked. Yes, I said. I noticed the shift. I see it happening. That's enough. Wow, he said. I expected anger. You're different. I survived, I said quietly. Yeah, he said, smiling. You did. During lunch, I whispered to myself, he's unraveling. She's struggling. I'm alive. Not below them anymore. I imagined Emily counting bills, Robert scrambling for answers, their smiles gone. I didn't gloat. I didn't want to. I just observed. Later, Lena said, it's strange, watching people crumble and not feel hatred. Exactly, I said. It's peaceful. Quiet. Not revenge. Just life. She nodded. You've come a long way. I've learned patience, I said. Even with the ones who hurt me. Impressive, she said. I smiled faintly. It's different from what I imagined. That night I called Mark. They're really falling apart, huh? Yeah, he said. Crazy how life works. I don't want to celebrate, I said. I just notice it. Feels fair maybe. Fair enough, he said. You're handling this better than I could. I sat in silence for a while. Better, yes. Not happy. Not vengeful. Just aware. I walked past my old house later and whispered, I'm not beneath them anymore. I see clearly now. No anger. No shame. Just observation. Emily's name crossed my mind. She's struggling, I said aloud. He's struggling. Their life is collapsing. I felt detached. I didn't cheer. I didn't wish pain. I whispered again, karma whispers. It doesn't scream. And I hear it. The city lights flickered as I sat on the balcony. My chest was steady. My hands weren't shaking. I told myself, I survived the worst. I'm no longer beneath them. Not in anger, not in love. Just free. I went inside and wrote in my notebook. Observe. Breathe. Survive. Detach. For the first time, I felt clarity. I wasn't seeking revenge. I wasn't craving justice. I was simply alive. And that felt enough. I whispered one last time before bed, karma whispers and I am listening. Quietly, carefully, patiently. The city outside stayed loud, but inside me there was silence. Not empty. Not weak. Just quiet, steady, and mine. My phone buzzed while I was finishing dinner. Emily's name flashed on the screen. I stared at it for a long time. Finally I answered. Hello. I said cautious. I need to talk, she said, voice trembling. Please, can we meet? Where? I asked. At the park near our old neighborhood, she said. I made mistakes. I was silent. Fine, I said finally. Later I saw her sitting on a bench. Her hair was messy, eyes red. She didn't run when she saw me. I'm sorry, she said, voice breaking. I hurt you in ways I can't explain. I was wrong. All those years. I didn't respond. I just sat down, my hands folded. Robert approached from behind, hesitant. I should have told you sooner, he said. Sit, I said. I'll listen. He froze, then sat slowly. Emily whispered, I never wanted to destroy you. I was weak. I'm sorry? I didn't answer. I only watched, felt the truth in their voices but felt nothing for them. Robert said, I thought we could explain. Maybe fix some things. I nodded slowly. You can speak. I'm listening. Emily wiped her eyes. I loved you. I thought I loved you. I don't know anymore. I hurt everyone, including myself. I hear you, I said. I wish I could take it back, she said, voice cracking. All of it. I stayed silent, my chest steady. My heart wasn't racing. My voice didn't shake. Robert said, I thought it was the right choice. We didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to, I repeated quietly. But you did. Emily looked at me, hope flickering in her eyes. Can you forgive me? I shook my head slightly. Forgiveness isn't mine to give. I survived. That's enough. She swallowed, tears rolling down her cheeks. I wanted you to know. I regret it every day. I said nothing, only nodded. Clarity filled me. Their guilt, their fear, their explanations, they were small compared to what I survived. Robert said, "I thought you'd hate me forever." "You're smaller than my pain ever was," I said softly. "Smaller than the years I spent lost. I survived. You are consequences of choices, nothing more." Emily's lips trembled. "I never wanted you to feel this way." "I already felt it," I said. "And I lived through it." Robert stared at me, eyes wide. You're calm." "I'm not calm," I said. "I'm clear." Emily whispered, "I wanted to fix things. You wanted," I said. "But wanting doesn't erase what happened." "I understand," she said softly. I stood up, feeling the weight of months lift. "I need to go," I said. "Please don't walk away," Emily said, voice shaking. "I'm not walking away from life," I said. "I'm walking toward it." Robert said nothing. Emily stayed seated, hands trembling. I added, This is your closure, not mine. I survived without your permission. That's all I need." They both stared at me as if waiting for anger, tears, revenge. I offered none. "You're different," Emily said quietly. "I had to be," I said. "I can't live in the ruins of your choices anymore." Robert whispered, "I'm sorry." "I hear you," I said again. "But that's for you, not me." I turned and started walking. The park smelled like rain and grass. I felt the sun on my face. Emily called my name. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. "Take care," I said over my shoulder. I felt nothing but air moving past me, the sound of leaves rustling. The clarity of surviving washed over me. I walked steadily, each step lighter than the last. My chest was open. My mind was mine. I whispered quietly, "This is my victory. Not revenge. Not anger. Just freedom." The bench, their faces, the apologies, they shrank in my mind. Small, fragile, powerless. I breathed deeply. I didn't need their words. I didn't need them to cry, to beg, to explain. I was whole, not because they said sorry, but because I survived the impossible. The path stretched ahead. Quiet, clear, empty. "What?" I whispered again. "I walk alone, but I'm alive." The park faded behind me, but the clarity stayed. I smiled faintly. Not for them. Not for myself. Just for the life I was reclaiming. I didn't look back once. And that was all the victory I needed. I saw the news on my phone first thing in the morning. Robert's name flashed across the screen. Exposed. Investigated. Fraud confirmed. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't smile. I just read. Mark called immediately. "Did you see this?" "I did," I said quietly. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said. Not happy, not angry. Just observing. "You're calm," he said. "I've learned to be," I said. At work, Lena noticed my expression. "News from your side of the world?" "Yes," I said. "It's unfolding." "Are you upset?" she asked. "No," I said. "I'm alive. That's enough." Later, I saw Emily's posts online. People were criticizing her, questioning her choices. I didn't feel pleasure or satisfaction. I felt detached. I whispered, "This is what comes from lies." Mark leaned over at lunch. "She's getting judged hard." "I know," I said. "And she deserves to face it." "Deserves it?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "But I won't interfere. I won't celebrate. I'll just live." "You really changed," he said. "I had to," I replied. "I survived. That's all I need." At home, I didn't watch the coverage. I didn't scroll endlessly. I made breakfast. I wrote in my notebook. Observe. Breathe. Survive. Detach. I whispered the words to myself. Detach. That's the key. Later, a coworker mentioned the headlines. "Robert's empire is crumbling," she said. "I heard," I said. "It's inevitable." "People are shocked," she said. "I'm not," I said. I saw it coming. I just didn't need to be involved. At the cafe, Mark asked, "Don't you feel a bit satisfied?" "I feel nothing for them," I said. "Their downfall isn't mine to own. Justice happens quietly sometimes." He nodded slowly. "You're different than me." "Different is better," I said. Emily called later. I ignored it. I wasn't curious. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't tempted. I whispered, "She faces the consequences now." The next morning, my phone buzzed with updates. Robert had resigned. Emily had lost her apartment. People were turning away from them. I didn't rejoice. I didn't smirk. I simply acknowledged it. I said softly, "This is life." Quiet, slow, exacting. Mark asked, "You really don't care?" "I care about myself," I said. "About living. That's enough." At work, Lena noticed my quiet. "You've got peace," she said. "I have clarity," I said. "Not happiness. Not revenge. Clarity." I walked through the city after work. People passed me, indifferent to my history, indifferent to theirs. I felt the simplicity of moving forward. I whispered, "I live. That is my victory." Evenings were quiet. I cooked, cleaned, ran, and journaled. Every action deliberate. Every thought measured. Mark called again. "You're holding steady?" "I am," I said. "No rush to feel. No rush to react. Just steady." "Impressive," he said. "I'm alive," I said. "And that's more than enough." News alerts kept popping. Robert's trial scheduled. Emily's finances ruined. Friends and neighbors talking. Social media erupting. I read one headline and whispered, "This isn't drama. It's life catching up." No satisfaction. No gloating. Only awareness. Even when a colleague said, "They say she's lost everything," I nodded. "I know." "Doesn't it feel good?" she asked. "No," I said. "It feels quiet. Final. Necessary." I went home, journal in hand. I wrote, "They collapse. I survive. That is my truth." I didn't write about joy or revenge or triumph. I wrote about calm. About breathing. About living. Later, Mark texted, "You're handling this like a monk." I typed back, "I just live. That's all I need." That night, I sat on the balcony. The city hummed around me. I didn't think about Emily. I didn't think about Robert. I thought about me. I whispered, "I survived their lies. I survived their games. And I moved forward." No celebration. No laughter. Just the steady beat of life. I went inside and cooked dinner. I poured a glass of water instead of wine. I breathed. I whispered, "I didn't need their downfall to feel whole. I am whole because I survived." The headlines faded from my mind. The chaos of their lives faded. I slept that night knowing something they could never take from me: my life, my clarity, my peace. And for once that was enough. I stood on the balcony that morning, coffee in hand, watching the city wake. The wind was crisp, and for the first time in a long while I felt steady. Mark called as he always did. "Morning, philosopher," he said. "Morning," I replied. "I'm not a philosopher. Just awake." "Awake, huh?" he said. "Sounds fancy." "It feels simple," I said. "Breathing, noticing, surviving. That's enough." "Simple but effective," he said. I laughed softly. It took me a long time to reach simple. "Worth it?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Every broken night, every tear, every panic, they brought me here." Later at work, Lena noticed my calm. "You're different," she said. "I'm me," I said. "A version I trust now." "You trust yourself?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Not like before. I don't rely on anyone else to feel safe. I feel safe in my own skin." She smiled. "I like this man." I chuckled. "He's quieter than the old one. Smarter too." "You've grown," she said. "Really grown." "I had to," I said. "No one else could teach me this lesson." At lunch, Mark asked, "Do you think about them much?" "Emily? Robert?" I asked. "Yes. Sometimes," I admitted. "But not with anger. Not with desire. Just memory." "That's new," he said. "Necessary," I said. "Memories shape you, but they don't own you anymore." He nodded. "Sounds like peace." "Not peace," I said. "Clarity. Life without chaos." That night I cooked dinner alone. No TV, no phone. Just me chopping vegetables, stirring pots, listening to the quiet. I whispered to myself, "I am enough." I poured a glass of water and sat at the table. I could have called someone. I could have shared a meal. But I didn't need to. I was enough for myself. Later, in the dark, I picked up my journal. I wrote, "I survived. I am alive. I am free." The pain shaped me, but it did not own me. I smiled faintly. "It's mine now," I said aloud. I called Mark. I didn't need to win over them. I won over me. He laughed softly. "About time." "I realize now," I said, "surviving was the victory all along. Not revenge, not justice. Survival. That's powerful," he said. "I know," I said. "It feels quiet, but it's enough." The next morning, Lena said, "You're glowing. Calm, steady, strong." "I'm the man I became," I said. "Not by hating them. Not by punishing them. by surviving myself. You look happy, she said. Not exactly, I said. Content maybe. Peaceful? Not always. But aware. And that is everything. I walked home after work, noticing the sunlight on the streets, the laughter of children, the smell of fresh bread from the bakery. I whispered, I trust myself now. I'm not afraid of being alone. I stopped at a quiet park bench and sat. I watched couples, friends, strangers passing. I didn't feel envy or longing. I just observed. I whispered again, this life is mine. No regrets, no resentment. Just a deep, steady awareness of who I am and who I survived to become. I looked at my reflection in a shop window. The eyes staring back were steady, unbroken, and clear. I whispered, I am stronger. I am awake. I am enough. At home, I poured water, cleaned the counter, lit a candle, and sat in silence. I felt the weight of years lift slightly. Mark texted, you okay tonight? I typed back, better than ever. I am me. That's enough. I whispered softly, the pain was part of me, but it no longer controls me. I am free. I closed the journal, my hands steady. I could feel the years behind me, all the suffering, the lies, the betrayals. They had shaped me, yes, but I had survived them. I smiled faintly. I didn't need them to fall. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need revenge. I just needed me. The candle flickered. The city hummed outside. The quiet was mine. I whispered, I survived. I became the man I was meant to be. And now, my life is mine. I went to bed that night knowing I was whole. Not perfect, not unscarred, but alive, aware, and free. And for the first time in years, that was enough.